It is time to acknowledge the tremendous challenges that we're faced with as a human civilization, and to see the opportunities inherent in our individual and organizational lives to improve our collective circumstances. We need to recognize the great gifts we've been given, our own glorious, unique attributes and abilities that the world needs now, and we need to give those gifts to the world. And there's no time like the present, and no one better positioned to transform yourself in the world than you.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Anushka at peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM, that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Karlin Sloan. Karlin is the founder and CEO of Sloan Group International, a boutique leadership development consulting firm serving multinational organizations and emerging companies on 5 continents. She has committed herself to finding out what makes great leaders tick and to supporting leaders to be the change that they really wish to see in the world. As a corporate citizen, she's an advocate for triple bottom line reporting, for creating sustainable ways of working and living, and for creating positive organizational communities that work together for the greater good. She is the author of multiple popular leadership books, including Smarter, Faster, Better, Strategies for Effective, Enduring, and Fulfilled Leadership, which has been translated into Thai and Russian, as well as the co-author of Lemonade, The Leader's Guide to Resilience at Work and Executive Presence. Her 2020 book, Inspiring Leadership in Uncertain Times, is available now on Amazon and Audible. She specializes in C-suite executive coaching, 360 assessment programs, executive team facilitation, high potential leadership development programs, power dynamics in leadership and management, among other areas. We're so happy that Karlin has joined us today on Leaders. We can't wait to get more insights from this interview of hers. Welcome to Leaders, Karlin.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really delighted to be here with you today, and it's great to connect during these times when we can feel so far apart, but we're really so close together.
Absolutely. Likewise, the pleasure is absolutely ours. Can't wait to interview you, Karlin. So I'm just going to dive right into the questions.
Great.
So the first question I really had for you was, can you tell us a little bit about Sloan Group International as the CEO and founder? Can you tell us about your company's ideologies, how it really came to be, and the great work that you do there?
Yeah, so we were founded in 2000, and the backdrop of that was that I started my first company in Silicon Valley in the mid-90s, and it was one of the first executive coaching companies. And we were working with Generation X managers who were up and coming in the internet. And in the very last part of the 90s and the beginning of 2000, the internet bubble burst. And I had to regroup and figure out, okay, well, what are we going to do now? And I moved to New York City and started this company. And now, as you said, we're on 5 continents, which still shocks me to this day. But it's been a wonderful ride. And as far as ideology, I think that's a really interesting question. I think, we are here to make a positive difference in the lives of leaders and the people that we lead. And we typically work at a very senior level with strategic decision makers, and those people have a big impact on their organization and on their people. And we're just starting to really scale that work after 20 years of working kind of behind the scenes as a power behind the throne. We're starting to work at a management level and really scale our work across organizations, and it's quite exciting. And we really do believe in helping people to develop resilience in times of change. And it's become an area of expertise that started for us at the very beginning of the company we were headquartered in New York, and 9/11 hit right after we were founded. And we were asked to do a lot of crisis leadership work in organizations that had lost people in the Twin Towers or had significant issues with post-traumatic stress. And that crisis actually really informed all of the work that we do to this day, because we started doing original research on resilience at work and change leadership. And so, a lot of the lessons that I learned and that our company learned at that time are really relevant now. So I'm really pleased to be doing that kind of crisis leadership and change leadership work.
Wow, I think that's really relevant, as you said, to today's times. And that's a really wonderful work you're doing there, Karlin. So congratulations on the success of Karlin Group International in 5 continents. That's just incredible.
Yeah, it's been very interesting, and I'm talking to you from Australia right now, and you can hear from my accent that I'm American, but I do feel like it's a beautiful moment to be a global citizen.
Absolutely, absolutely, can't agree more. So the second question that I really had for you was, you've famously known for the book that you wrote recently, Inspiring Leadership in Uncertain Times. So just as a follow-up question, and the book came out in 2020, right? So what was it that really inspired you to write the book in the middle of the pandemic? And we'd love to know deeper insights on this aspect, and I'm sure our audience would love as well. So
yeah, it's a great question. It's the book was really a labor of love, and it was taking a lot of work that we had been doing for many years and looking at it through the lens of COVID. And I have been able to interview a lot of leaders who have done amazing things with their organizations during this time. And so part of it is looking at case studies of how people are using the methodologies that we've created in this context, but definitely this is long-term stuff. It's so the book is about how do you lead when there's just so much information and so much change all at once that it is overwhelming for both you and your people. And we entered an era probably in around the 1970s where technology started to become so powerful and so fast that it began to overwhelm people's thought processes. There was an amazing book by a guy named Alvin Toffler called Future Shock. And he was looking at this idea of how change impacts us. And he had a great story that fighter pilots would go into the cockpit of these planes to be trained in how to fly the brand new jets. And, they had all these new bells and whistles. Every time they would go into the plane, there would be new controls and new things to do. And while the intent was to make everything more and more efficient and for it to be better for the pilots were saying, we're overwhelmed. Our brains can't take this much change all at once. And I think we have gone so far beyond that in our relationship to technology and our relationship to information that we have to find new ways of working and better ways of adapting our brains to that level of change.
Absolutely. Totally second you on that one. We need to really leverage technology and use it as an enabler, right? To help smoothen every process in day-to-day life and help us adapt and be agile to changing situations.
Yeah, it's and I think, since I've worked in technology for a very long time, it's been interesting. Our company sort of has a specialty area of working with leaders who have sort of technical expertise in their field, who have had to shift into a management and leadership role. And so we've worked with technology and with finance and with healthcare and places where there are people who hold this particular expertise in what they do. And then when they have to jump into a leadership role and inspire the people around them, there can be a huge challenge because they hold all this knowledge They're really excellent at what they do. They're used to doing things very rapidly, and all of a sudden they have to get people to come along with them and buy into their ideas and start learning from them. And I feel like it's practical. It's the simple, practical stuff that makes the biggest impact in leadership development. So that's what we've tried to do with the book.
Wow, that's lovely. And I feel your book, Inspiring Leadership in Uncertain Times, will also, sort of act as a beacon light for leaders and organizations during these trying times, just to provide them with a sense of direction when they stray away, right?
Yeah, it's good to know that there are other people going through the same thing, and I think one of the pieces of our research into resilience is about building community, and that, a third of our resilience attributes are really coming from our relationship to other people. Do we feel supported at work? Do we feel like we have somebody to talk to? Do we feel connected to something or a sense of belonging? And I think that it's time for us to really look at that when we're so distributed and employees are getting less and less connected. And I know because you do the work that you do at peopleHum, like you're measuring employee engagement, I'm sure you're seeing the impact of COVID on employee engagement, particularly when they're working remotely.
True, very, very true. And that was very well said, Karlin. It's all about fostering the interpersonal connect and being there for each other, right? Especially during such crisis.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So shifting gears a little, based on your expertise, we'd like to know how leadership and resilience really go hand in hand. And what would you suggest leaders consciously to practice like a proper blend of the two during such changing, ever-evolving times?
Well, let me start with the dictionary definition of resilience, because resilience can mean a lot of different things. But looking at leadership and resilience, we use a dictionary definition that's the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. And so it's really our bounce back ability. And the requirements of leadership have been changing and evolving so tremendously. And we need to be able to develop those abilities, not just in ourselves, but in the people in our organization. And one piece of our research that's very interesting, and we've assessed thousands of people with our resilience at work assessment, the group of people who are in senior level leadership have a very much higher level of resilience than the people they lead. And what that means is if you're in a leadership role, you may enjoy change. You may be excited about a crisis because, hey, I know this is an opportunity and I'm going to make this work. That attitude can actually alienate people below you if you haven't gotten them to come along with your future vision. And so the requirements of leaders to help people to acknowledge where they are, to help them see that they accept this is the reality right now, we understand you, and we're going to lead you into a positive future state. It's an art form, and it's something that we have to learn as leaders. I know that I had a colleague who calls me a recovering pessimist, because I am very good at having the optimism and the positive future vision. But with my team, I used to always do this thing where it's like, okay, well, we have to look at all the problems that could possibly happen so that we can prepare for all the problems. And what that does as a leader is if you start there and you don't start with, well, we have this reality and we're working toward this positive future vision, you can lead people into greater states of anxiety instead of greater states of capability. So it's something that I have to practice and learn, and I think all leaders have to do, frankly. But it's powerful stuff. The way that leaders can apply resilience to leading themselves and their teams. I think we need to worry about burnout too. There's another really important factor around resilience at the moment, is that the level of burnout has gotten really significant. And there's a burnout cycle that was researched. I can't remember the name of the book, but it's a guy named Freudenberger wrote about this concept of these stages of the burnout cycle. And it's very normal for people in modern workplaces to be slightly burned out. It's sort of the norm across everyone, is that we're working very hard, we're trying to prove ourselves, we may be working much more hours than are efficient for a human being and expecting a lot of ourselves. Those things we can normalize, but when we get beyond that and get deeper and deeper into not feeling in control, blaming other people on our team, denying reality, and then finally we can head into stress-related illness. And so that piece of resilience, resisting burnout, it requires a lot of discipline. And that's not just, the mental discipline of keeping yourself organized, things like that. It requires physical discipline of taking care of yourself, of, eating the right food and working out or doing things that are good for the body as well as the mind, meditating. And so we really encourage that idea of looking at the whole self, because as a leader, you're your most important instrument of success. So take care of yourself first, oxygen mask on first, and then you can take care of your people more effectively.
Wow, very well said. I really like two points that you mentioned. The first one was about how as we're moving forward and being agile and adapting to situations, we can't let our employees be alienated, right? I think that was a really unique perspective that you brought out there. And the second is, as now you just spoke about work-life alignment and how you need to look at yourself holistically, right?
Yeah.
Very important indeed.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of our work over the whole of our existence has been one-on-one coaching. And that one-on-one coaching is it's fascinating because we get to see into the world of the executives who we work with. And it's lonely at the top. So it's important to have a sense that you have support, that there are others like you. We've created a whole community online called Inspiring Leadership, where we are connecting people globally to each other. Because I think right now, that sense of, what do I do? I'm in this by myself. I have to figure it out. And a lot of leaders tend to have a huge sense of responsibility, which is appropriate because we are responsible for a lot of things, a lot of people. But we need to hear the success stories of other people. What did you do to help your team? And, get that learning from each other. And that's something that we're really trying to facilitate right now.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. We always need like a slight dose of motivation and inspiration, right? As well as we're going through this journey of learning, right?
Absolutely. And it never stops.
Absolutely. Can't agree more. So, Karlin, the other question I had for you was, in what direction do you really see the HR industry moving, especially in a post-pandemic world, where every role is more likely to be redefined?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with this. I think that the illusion that we are going back to normal, whatever normal is just that, it's an illusion. I think we're stepping into a new structure, new ways of working. There's data coming out that 90% of CEOs are keeping at least 70% of their workforce remote from now on. That's a significant shift in how we work and how we operate. Artificial intelligence is making an enormous impact on organizations, as and looking at big data is such a critical element of HR now, and being able to use that data efficiently and toward the betterment of the workplace. I think HR is moving in two separate directions. One is the data side and becoming much more analytical, looking at employee performance, in aggregate, and looking at how to improve those things really from a hard data, hard numbers perspective. And the other side is looking at how do we develop culture and how do we help employees and leaders be more psychologically aware, help them to handle the interpersonal dynamics of a distributed workforce. We're going to be integrating artificial intelligence management into the workforce. What is that going to look like? And that's going to be partly up to HR. So I think it's going to be a really interesting new frontier. And there's the good and bad side of all of it. I think there's a lot of fear right now from people because it is ambiguous and we don't know quite what we're walking into. But that's the moment where we have the biggest opportunity to create the future. So I am a recovered pessimist because I do believe that we're going somewhere good.
Wow, that was wonderful. But I love how you put it. HR is right now is a crossroads between going into big data and people analytics and strategies to, just smooth and process work, right? And at the same time, foster better organizational cultures, the human connect.
Yeah, it's going to be really important. Both sides, it's like two sides of the brain. We're going to have both sides of HR.
Yes, and just kind of maintaining the fine balance, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Wow, that was a very enlightening insight that you shared with us, Karlin. I really don't want to wrap this interview up, but unfortunately we'll have to do it. So just to kind of wrap it up, do you have a quote that best describes your feelings on the future of workplace, and you?
Well, I was so thrilled that you sent me this question in advance because I prepared myself. And this is actually a quote from my latest book, From Inspiring Leadership for Uncertain Times. And I will just read it to you. It is time to acknowledge the tremendous challenges that we're faced with as a human civilization, and to see the opportunities inherent in our individual and organizational lives to improve our collective circumstances. We need to recognize the great gifts we've been given, our own glorious, unique attributes and abilities that the world needs now, and we need to give those gifts to the world. And there's no time like the present, and no one better positioned to transform yourself in the world than you. And that's it.
Wow, that was wonderful. So it's just you taking all kind of accountability and being proactive, and having gratitude, right? I think that's really important.
Absolutely. And I think, I think this is a moment for us to collectively support each other and to create new realities that are more humane, better for everyone.
Wonderful. That was such a positive and inspiring note to end the interview on, Karlin.
Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoyed interviewing you. It was such a fun time, gained so many fresh perspectives, and loved the conversation.
Well, great to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Likewise. You have a safe and healthy time ahead of you. We shall surely stay in touch in the future.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.